Chiefs Kingdom. Welcome back to All Chiefed Up. We got another podcast for that ass, and today we're going to be talking about Justyn Ross and your favorite wide receiver that doesn't even wear a Chiefs uniform yet, DeAndre Hopkins. We know you're not tired of talking about that guy. But first, let's jump right in, Steve. Chiefs Wire's Charles Goldman come out with a way too early 53-man roster prediction, and after taking a look at it, there was a big name left off the list. Where's Justyn Ross on this bad boy? He says he's not going to make the 53-man roster.
Yeah, that's pretty confusing considering that people like Chiefs Wire and other Chiefs media have pumped up Justyn Ross to be the man. Like, hey, everybody gets super excited for this kid because he could be a potential number one wide receiver in the league and all this stuff. And of course, we've been the bad guy on the other side of the picture saying, hey guys, pump the brakes a little bit. This guy had a good 2018 season with Clemson, a decent 2019 season with Clemson, but then he didn't play in 2020. 2021, he did half the production he did before that, and then he had to have surgery on his spine, and then he fell all the way out of the draft to a UDFA. This guy hasn't been really on the field since 2021, so we're looking at least 2 years of him not playing football. We don't know what he holds. We don't know what he offers, but we do know that he's exciting. He's a good prospect because we've seen him at his top. Like, if you look back at 2018, freaking amazing. Like, an amazing receiver. So we know it's there, and I think that's why everybody's excited about it. But I don't understand why they talk about how good he is and then say that he won't make the roster.
Well, that's what I got out of this. How did All Chiefed Up become the Justyn Ross supporters all of a sudden? Like, how is it that everybody else has just pumped him up to
I'll tell you why.
Bigfoot level myths?
Because, look, we've been on the same wavelength the entire time. Like we've said since the beginning, we love Justyn Ross. Justyn Ross has really, a lot of potential, like a high ceiling.
Hey, the clickbait wins. Clickbait wins. It does. That's what we've noticed.
When you're real about it and you say, like, hey, this guy hasn't had a really productive season since 2019, then, you start getting tomatoes thrown at you.
Right.
But that's the reality.
I'll give Charles Goldman a little credit. I'll give Chiefs Wire a little credit. This is way too early. This is their first take. And looking at our wide receiver room, it is really hard to figure out. Let's be honest. It's hard to sort. He also only has 6 wide receivers being taken through, not 7. So now that the fullback's not there, he did not take it in the receiver room. He ended up taking Kadarius Toney, number 1. I think we can all agree. MVS, Sky Moore, Rashee Rice is his top 4. He ended up taking Justin Watson and Richie James. And he says, as much as I'd like to see a player like Justyn Ross make this 53-man roster, I just don't know how you make the numbers work if you're KC. Maybe you could carry one less tight end, but unless he's going to make an outsized impact on special teams, it's hard to fit him. Richie James is going to be a big role for Dave Toub, with more Toney and Pacheco looking to increase their snaps on offense. So it sounds like to me he's saying, look, if Justyn Ross can't perform and he can't do special teams, which we've already said that, like it's dangerous to put him out there, then he's not going to make the roster. I think Charles Goldman's got a little bit of a point. But this is the same points we've been making over and over and over again, and everybody's like chirping that we're negative.
Right. Well, it's a couple of things that you mentioned, right? He's thinking they're only going to take 6 receivers. To me, if you look at the big picture, you have that extra roster spot because you're not going to have a fullback. Andy mentioned that he's going to use tight ends to fill in that role. That does not mean that you have to have an extra tight end on the team by any means. I think that he's just going to use who we have. It's either going to be Noah Gray or Blake Bell, something like that. It doesn't mean that we're going to have an extra tight end position. So I think that it would be the most logical thing with this team and the way it operates to have 7 receivers instead of 6. And if they
go ahead.
If they go with 7, then that opens up more doors for Justyn Ross to make the roster, because we've talked about how he's firmly on the cut line right now. If they were to open up one more spot, that still doesn't guarantee him a spot, but I think it definitely opens up the door for it.
Right. Well, you mentioned tight end. So I was looking. I'm not going to go through the entire roster, the entire 53-man, but I did scroll up to tight end and had a look. He's taken 4. We took 4 last year. He's got Kelsey, Noah Gray, Jody Fortson, Blake Bell. He says that Matt Bushman and Kendall Blanton could both make a push for a spot, but whatever. A lot of people are saying that maybe Blake Bell could be a surprise cut. If Blake Bell's a surprise cut and they decide to only take 3 into the season, does that open the door for the 7th wide receiver? We'll see. So now it's just, we're saying, Watson versus Richie James versus Justyn Ross versus Remigio versus you throw it out there, Jerrion Ealy even. But when it gets down to these 53, 52 guys on the roster, you're not even fighting guys in your own spot. Like you might be fighting a safety or a seventh corner. So
Agreed.
yeah, it's something like that. But let's get into D Hop really quick because this goes right with it. D
Yeah.
Hop he's still not signed. He's still not signed. You had Nick Wright yesterday saying that we didn't need him, and I think we all agree we do not need D Hop. But boy, would it be fun to have him. That's what we think. Like we think with
Right.
him and Kelsey drawing those double teams, it's going to open the doors for Sky Moore and them to be able to produce better.
Nick Wright said he wouldn't even be excited if they signed D-Hop, which is a
Dude,
lie.
that is
Complete
just,
lie.
it's straight up for programming, right?
Mark
It
my
has to
words
be.
right now. If we sign D-Hop, if the Chiefs sign D-Hop, he's going to be having a celebration on that show. The same
will.
one he said he wouldn't be excited about.
What's he going to do? The Chiefs are unstoppable. We just become 21-0, 20-0. We're never going to lose. He's going to be crazy. This has to be for programming, right? Like to make it look interesting.
Exactly. But before we get too deep into the D-Hop thing, try to make sense of this for me. Like you mentioned, they're going to take 4 tight ends that we took 4 last year. That's what I can't understand. If you take 4 tight ends, you're still open to taking 7 wide receivers because you're not taking the fullback. Like, am I making sense with this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is tough because I didn't want to get into the full 53-man roster. We may do that on a different episode, a longer episode. But I did see that he did take 4 running backs again. And he took Pacheco, McKinnon, Clyde, and Deneric Prince. And he actually says that he could see the Chiefs only taking 3 running backs. So if you're still only taking 3 running backs, why are you still not taking 7?
I don't know, man. I
don't see that at all.
think that's a thing. I think the Chiefs are always going to have 4 running backs because when you look at who they have, they're injury prone. You got Clyde and Jerick McKinnon who are known for injuries throughout their entire career. And then you have Pacheco who runs like a bull in a china shop that's open to any kind of little injury at any time because of how he plays 100%.
And we've seen he had to play through injuries throughout the entire playoffs.
Right. They're going to take 4 and they're going to take 4 tight ends. But I mean, I'm just saying that extra position that opens up for the entire team. If you look at it in the big scope of things, the way that Kansas City operates, you almost have to give that extra nod to the receivers. It would only make sense to me.
I think looking at it like this, the position that's going to get chopped so you can take a 7th receiver is going to be safety. I'm going to tell you why. Because when you have Reed and you already have Cook slated in as your starters, Mike Edwards come over and he's a ball hawk. Mike Edwards is going to make this team. I think it leaves out Bush. I think Bush is gone because why? I believe Chamari Connor can do both, and Chamari Connor will make it as a corner. I believe they'll count him as a corner, and that will free up the safety, and that will be 3 safeties.
We don't have to chop anywhere. We already chopped one. They're not going to keep a fullback. I don't know where we have to chop anywhere else to keep 7 wide receivers. We had 6 last year. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Exactly. So, I mean, we don't have to chop anywhere. I think that the
I think we have to
just gets
chop
that extra
because
position.
I think we're needing to chop because it looks like we're going to have to take more offensive linemen in with us. Possibly more offensive linemen.
I don't think they will. I think
We'll
it'll be
talk-
about the
okay.
same numbers as last year.
Well, we'll talk about this a little more in depth on a longer episode. Probably the next episode we come out with, we might just dig into the 53-man a little more. But getting back to D-Hop a little bit, I know, again, we got to keep talking about D-Hop because that's where the audience wants to watch. So they're going to leave if we don't keep talking about D-Hop, Steve. Nick Wright says that you can't have D-Hop. It stunts the growth and development of all the young players like Rashee Rice and all them.
BS.
That's BS. And we already debunked that. Me and you said D-Hop needs to come over and be a role model. Not a role model. He's not going to teach them how to take PEDs. He's going to come over and he's going to teach them like how to run routes, how to watch film, how to be better, how to win 50-50 balls. That's what Rashee Rice's game's going to be, guys. Rashee Rice is not going to be running wide open like Tyreek Hill.
And the guy that we're talking about in this video from the beginning, Justyn Ross, he also likes to do that sort of thing. So I'm with you. I think that having DeAndre Hopkins in the wide receiver room and being able to mentor these guys that are not your prototypical Andy Reid wide receivers, it gives them some direction. It gives them, and it could also be a help for MVS to get a little more physical and start high pointing the ball and quit,
100.
laying back and waiting for it, right? So, I mean, I think it would be a good thing, completely opposite of what Nick Wright's saying.
Right. Nowhere in the history of football will it ever be an issue that a rookie has to learn from a veteran. That's never been a thing, and it's never not going to be a thing.
He's saying that he's going to take snaps away from them.
Who cares?
Okay, first of all, how many snaps is a rookie wide receiver going to get with Andy Reid anyway? We saw that with Sky Moore last year. You're going to see it again with Rashee Rice this year.
Right.
And also, like I mentioned, they're going to get more action with D-Hop on the field because teams have to game plan for D-Hop and Travis Kelce, which is going to leave open Kadarius Toney a lot. It's going to leave Sky Moore on one-on-ones a lot. It's going to leave, Rashee Rice on one-on-ones a lot. I mean, this is what's going to happen. So they're actually going to get more experience probably because they're going to be the guys getting the ball.
Hey, we've said it time and time again. Development of young players goes a long way with good veterans. George Karlaftis had a good season last year. Why? Because he worked under Frank and Carlos Dunlap. Simple as that. If you would have went by Nick Wright's theory, we didn't even need Carlos Dunlap because it would have took snaps away from George Karlaftis. Think about it. Losing Frank Clark this year is kind of going to hinder probably Felix Anudike-Uzoma's growth a little bit, unless Omenihu can come in and kind of do that. But Omenihu's a pretty raw pass rusher in his own right. He's not been in the league very long. He's not got a lot proven. Sky Moore did not get his development hindered by going and trading for Kadarius Toney. Matter of fact, Sky Moore was underperforming to the point that we had to go get Kadarius Toney.
But
once Kadarius got here, he got better.
Sky Moore wasn't underperforming. Sky Moore was underutilized.
That's true.
Let's get that straight. And I think you're going to see a lot more of him this year. Like I said on live stream last night, he's the guy that's going to surprise most people because I think they have him plugged into what you just said. Like, hey, he underperformed last year. He didn't do nothing, and he was a second-round pick. He didn't get his chances. He's going to get them this year.
Well, this underdevelopment thing, this is the whole point of drafting quarterbacks and letting them sit. We've all said, boy, it's a good thing that Patrick Mahomes had Alex Smith to learn from a year because that jump-started his career. According to Nick Wright, we should have just drafted Mahomes, booted Alex Smith out the door, and let him trial by fire.
Actually hindered him.
So which one is it, Chiefs Kingdom? You can't have it both ways. Nick Wright is wrong. We're Nick Wright fans. He missed it.
Maybe Nick Wright was correct on this one. Maybe if Patrick Mahomes hadn't had to sit behind Alex Smith for a year, that he would have won the Super Bowl in 2018 and not 2019. So he's done his growth by a whole year.
It is possible. I think if Alex Smith wouldn't have been here and they would have just booted him out the door and let Patrick go right then and there, I think Patrick would have been fine. I think he would have figured it out. I really do.
Something else that circles all this back around to the beginning. We're talking about Justyn Ross making this squad. If DeAndre Hopkins were to get signed to the Chiefs, I think that helps Justyn Ross make the squad, the 53-man roster.
100%.
And here, let me tell you why. You make your top receivers better. Like your top 6 or 7 become better now, right? So you're looking at a depth chart of DeAndre Hopkins, and then you go to Kadarius Toney, MVS, Sky Moore, Rashee Rice.
Yep.
So what does that do, Mike? That gives you more depth. That's the word, depth, right? So they want to keep 6 or 7 receivers because of injuries and things like that. Okay, so if you have one more good receiver at the top, that gives you a lot more chance to take a boomer bust pick to put him on the roster at number 6 or number 7.
Yeah.
Because, if you don't have that extra guy at the top, like a D-Hop, then it becomes more of a thing is like, well, let's go ahead and get Justin Watson on the 53-man roster.
Yeah.
Because we know he's reliable. Like, he's not going to do anything spectacular, but he's not going to hurt us either. So let's put him on the roster. You don't have to do that if you have more guys down the list that can perform at a high level. Now you can say, hey, let's put Justyn Ross on here and see if this guy can light it up like everyone thinks he can.
So look, if Justyn Ross makes the roster like you said, and D-Hop was to get signed like you said, that means now the Chiefs probably do have to take 7. They don't take 6. You can still afford to take 6, but I still think they're taking 7 wide receivers at the end of the day. I don't see why you don't.
I think they should.
I think they should. So if that puts D-Hop at the top, and then Kadarius Toney, MVS, Sky Moore, Rashee Rice, that's your top 5. You've got 2 more. We already said Justyn Ross should be on that roster because why? He can learn. If you put him on the practice squad again, somebody's poaching him off that practice squad. Chief Kingdom's hyped this guy up way too much. Well, and if they don't poach him off the practice squad, that just goes to prove that everybody was hyping you for no reason. Because nobody was even interested.
It's one of those things like the value's too high. Like we can get this guy off the practice squad and have him playing for a minimal contract and see if he can boom. And that's exactly what the Chiefs need to do before they just let him fizzle out, right? And I think, D-Hop would help with that. Just talked about that. But you're saying there's 2 more. Are you counting with D-Hop?
Yeah, I'm counting D-Hop. So if you count Justyn Ross with D-Hop with the other 4 set in stone, which is MVS, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Rashee Rice,
put you at 6.
You're going to have one more spot. Is that going to be Justin Watson or Richie James? Because this has to be a special teams contributor. And I
Look,
think Richie
obviously,
James was who they went to get for that.
obviously, I'm not on the same wavelength and level as Andy Reid or whoever's going to be making these decisions. But in my mind, it's the most logical thing to do here would be to put Jerrion Ealy in at the seventh. And here's my explanation for that. Justin Watson, once again, like I said, if we have DeAndre Hopkins on the team, we have more good veteran wide receivers. We don't have to have him. We don't. Same with Richie James. Like, this is a guy that you're paying a little bit more money than you would be paying Jaren Ely. He's a little bit older than Jaren Ely. Jaren Ely offers you the same thing. He can play the slot position, and he's going to return punts, and he's going to return kicks, and I bet you he's probably faster than Richie James. So let's just throw that
That's
out
probably
there.
true.
And then like I said, he's younger. So it's like you have more years ahead of you with this cat. Why not get him on the field and get him learning? Also, it helps you with that running back position because, like I said, even if they keep 4, Mike, what happens if they keep 4 and then old man McKinnon has another knee injury and then Clyde gets hurt again? Now you're suddenly down to Isaiah Pacheco and who? Deneric Prince, or if they go sign
They're
another.
saying Deneric Prince makes the squad.
Right.
How do you say Deneric Prince just comes out of thin air? Just comes out of thin air, and he's on the squad. But yet Justyn Ross, who you've hyped up like Mothman or the incredible, not the incredible, the abominable snowman, somebody crazy in the mythology world. Yeah, how the Yeti of all wide receivers, and now he's off the roster. But yet Deneric Prince, the unicorn running back that comes in.
But see, like I was saying, if 2 of them were to get hurt, you're suddenly down to Isaiah Pacheco and a UDFA. But if you have Jaren Ely on the roster, this is a guy that can offer you 90% of what Jerick McKinnon does for the team.
Can you take 6 wide receivers at that point, save the 7th, and just put a 5th running back on and make it Jerrion Ealy so he swings back both ways?
That was exactly what I was saying, only just put him as a wide receiver instead of a running back.
Look at that. Big brain right there. We're figuring it out. I figured it out.
That's exactly what I was saying.
Okay, I got you. So you're just saying basically the running back and the wide receiver is like a hybrid, just put it together, and whether it's 7 or 5 go.
You're not going to carry 5 running backs. Why would you carry 5 running backs? But if you carry that
Does that allow
receiver,
you to maybe move Clyde out the door if he comes out during preseason and gets injured again? If something stupid happens?
Lots of different things.
It opens
up a lot. That, in my mind, makes the most sense to me. But like I said, I don't see this day in and day out like Andy Reid does, and I don't have the mind of Andy Reid.
Hey, you love Jaren Ely, by the way. I think you're his agent. Are you Jaren Ely's agent? Like, you've been preaching on Jaren Ely now for like a long time.
I'm not his agent, but I will be the guy that you guys will act like I never said anything about Jaren Ely when he gets out there and performs.
You're going to be the guy that gloats when Jaren Ely comes in and turns into this monster beast of a running back.
Will he be a monster beast? Probably not. But can he be what Jerick McKinnon is? Yes, very much so. Like, he just needs to learn, how to protect Patrick Mahomes. Can he pick up the blitzes like Jerick McKinnon? That's stuff that can be taught. That's stuff that he can pick up. But he has all the natural traits. He's faster than Jerick McKinnon. He receives the ball arguably better than Jerick McKinnon. I'm just saying, man.
I agree.
Just saying.
Well, hey, Twitter is going around. I know everybody's been, repeating this stuff. We've seen it in our live, our live stream last night. We were talking about DeAndre Hopkins, and a lot of people are throwing out, well, he's got PD problems. He got suspended over that. You're not scared over that. And then somebody today on Twitter is going around. Has there ever been anyone come back from a PED suspension and perform? Well, first and foremost, DeAndre Hopkins and his agents are all saying that was a false positive, that if you go back and look at his first 2, he was completely clean off the PEDs. But then again, a lot of people will say that anyway. They're not going to admit to it. So whether it was or not, the point of the argument was, has there ever been anybody to come off of it successfully? Yes, might I add, DeAndre Hopkins. Once he missed 6 games, his 7th game, which was the first game back in the 2022 season, he had 10 receptions for 103 yards. In his second game back, 12 reception on 13 targets, 159 yards and a touchdown. His next game, 36 yards and a touchdown. His next game, 98 yards, 91 yards, 90 yards, 90 yards. And then towards the end of the season, 4 yards in the playoffs because, they got to the playoffs and Murray did what Murray does. And that's why he wants out of there.
I would be willing to bet that his overall stats from last year probably trump most of the Chiefs receivers from last year, and he set out for the first 6 games. I would be willing to bet that it's pretty daggone
His
close.
overall stats last year in 2022 was just 9 games played, and he had 64 receptions on 96 targets for 717 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Right.
And you got to
So,
remember, he's getting double teamed, he's getting schemed, and he's the only thing Arizona had. And you had Kyler Murray trying to get him the football. So
Dan,
put that in a different red. Let a better quarterback throw him the football, and he's going over 1,000 yards very easily this season. He probably has 1,300 yards, and I think he's double-digit touchdowns
he
quite easily.
changes the entire landscape
Yes.
of the Chiefs offense. Like, it takes the Chiefs offense from best in the league to best in the league, but
Best
could
in the league.
potentially be best ever. Like
That's what
you're knocking them
Hopkins
to another
offers.
notch. Bop, you're
This
knocking
is
another
what
notch.
this is what Nick Wright and the anti-DeAndre Hopkins guys are not getting. They're so stuck in that negative mind frame of we don't have enough money to sign him. We'll never do it anyway. You're probably right on all accounts. You're probably right, but allow people to dream because guess what? If DeAndre Hopkins gets in this offense, it could be the best offense ever assembled.
Well,
So just think
here's
about
my
that.
thing. People that are all about the money, like, first off, none of us know how this cap works exactly. None of us are smart enough to figure it out, or we
Right.
would be a GM for an NFL team. Brett Veach is the best of the best at this. The people that saying that we don't have money to maybe get DeAndre Hopkins here, you might be right. He might want too much to what we can offer. But I think we could throw him out an offer that's reasonable that he could take if he wants to come win. And here's why. What was it, 3 years ago? Or maybe just 2 years ago, when it was the big story that the Chiefs only have $177 in cap space. But guess what they did? They turned around and signed Patrick Mahomes to a huge deal. They signed Chris Jones. They signed somebody else. It's like, you see how that works. Like, there's ways to make this work. And Brett Veach knows more about it than we do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, would I be surprised if they come out and sign D-Hop for a freaking $15 million? Probably not. I'd be like, well,
Right.
he's done crazier things.
I think he knows how to do it. So this begs the
Right.
question: are we even interested in D Hop? That's kind of the question.
Yes.
Would D Hop choose us over somebody like the Bills? It's rumors are going around. The Panthers are interested. The Falcons
No
are
one
interested.
cares.
The Bears are interested. DeAndre Hopkins did not spend a decade losing in Houston and Arizona to go finish the twilight of his career in
Right.
Atlanta. Like, he just didn't do it.
I'll be the first
He's picking a
one to
contender.
say. I'll be the first one to say that I will normally say most guys are going to take the money anytime they can get it, because we've just seen it over and over again. Look at Tyreek Hill. Like, he
Yeah.
would rather go lose in Miami just to make a little bit more money. But I don't know, man. I'm with you. DeAndre Hopkins played on the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
And he's been one of the best receivers in the league, and he has nothing to show for it. Nothing to show for it. If he could just win a ring or two, that would be it'd be a totally different thing for him to maybe one day be in the Hall of Fame, or, just any of that. Like, I feel like DeAndre Hopkins is serious about playing for a contender. I think the only serious people that could get this dude besides the Chiefs are Buffalo and Philadelphia. I think everybody else is kind of a pipe dream, like Cleveland or whoever, the Jets or whatever people are throwing out there. I think that he wants to play for a team that can legitimately win the Super Bowl, which I almost think scrubs Buffalo. And he has to be realistic. Like, it just depends. Like, how much stock does he put in himself? Does he think him going to Buffalo could put them over the edge? Does he think that him going to Philadelphia could put them over the edge?
Remember, he said he wanted a good defense and he wanted a good front office. I think Billy Beane and the Buffalo Bills are a decent front office. I don't think they're top tier. I don't think they're as good as Brett Veach and company. Their
Or
defense
Howie
is good.
in Philly.
Is their defense better than ours? Slightly, maybe. But at the same time, I don't know. We're on the up and up, and I mean, look at them last year. Come on. They couldn't stop Burrow for nothing. So
Can we make predictions?
go
That's
for
something we haven't done. We've talked about D-Hop over and over and over again.
it. Okay, go ahead.
Let's try to predict to the best of our ability. Let's do this. Who he goes to and what the contract's going to be. Let's see if we can see how close we can get to what actually happens.
Okay.
So I'm going to let you go first because I'm just
Thanks.
going to wing it.
Thanks.
Or you want me to go first since I'm winging it?
Well, go ahead. You can go first since you're just winging it.
All right. I'm going to say that he signs with the Kansas City Chiefs And I think that you're going to hear about this. What is today? Wednesday. You're going to hear about this Friday. On Friday, he will sign with the Kansas City Chiefs for a contract of
on June 2nd, right?
Yes.
Okay.
He's going to sign on June 2nd with the Kansas City Chiefs on a 1-year contract for $14 million plus some incentives.
Hey, if you're right, I'll take it. I'll do the same thing. I don't think he signs with the Chiefs. I think he'll end up going to Buffalo. I think he'll sign with Buffalo, and I think he'll sign it for 2 years, and I think they'll sign him for 30-some million, like 30, 32, 31 maybe. It might be a little lower. It could be about 28 with a lot of incentives, but somewhere around that 15 million per year mark. And I think they may look to possibly trade Stephon Diggs at some point, maybe even to Dallas. To play
I don't
with his
know,
bro.
man. I
think that might be the plan.
I'm going to go with June 2nd to the Chiefs, and I think that, shortly after you're going to hear about the restructure with Chris Jones and all that that's already been in play. If they've been talking about trading for D-Hop since way before the draft, since back when all these rumors first started, what seems like forever ago, then you don't tell me they ain't been working on things to free up money for it since then as well.
Dude, well, the question was, where's Justyn Ross? And Justyn Ross is firmly on our 53-man roster, and he's more firmly on our 53-man roster if we sign D-Hop, to be honest. If the Chiefs take 7, he's definitely on. If the Chiefs take 6, he's about a 60-40 in our opinion. I think we could probably agree on that. So yeah, sorry, Charles Goldman. We think you missed the mark a little bit. You didn't miss the mark as bad as Nick Wright did yesterday. He really dropped the ball here, Steve. But that's going to wrap it up for the day. You guys hit that like button. If you haven't already, hit that sub button. Watch some of our other videos, and we will catch you guys later. There goes a sight from my soul.